Welcome to the walkthrough of frequently made mistakes that I observed while reviewing the Assignment 1B submissions in my CS5254 course in the summer of 2023. First, please make sure to comment your code or it won't be reviewed. Take a look at this link for instructions on how to comment your code. Another good way to learn how to comment the code is to take a look at all the examples that I've been showing in class and follow that pattern. Let's take a look at some issues with methods and fields in Rantrant spin lock. First, please try to get in the habit of using the M prefix on your fields, which makes it easy to differentiate fields from parameters or local variables. And likewise, please don't use the M prefix for local variables or parameters. Just use M prefix for fields. Let's take a look now at the lock method. There's a number of issues people have with lock. First and foremost, you don't need to have two loops here. All you need to do is just have one loop that's going to keep looping as long as the owner's get value returns null and try lock is true. So you'll need to think about how to structure that loop, but basically that gives you a big hint for how to do that. Let's take a look at another issue with the lock implementation. So in this case, please only call try lock if mOwner.get equals null. The reason for doing this is it helps to make caching more appropriate on multi-core processors. I posted a link to the Piazza page that explains why you should follow this particular pattern. Down here, there's no need to check try lock again, nor do you need to check if isCancelled.get returns true. Just break out once you've acquired the lock. Down here, there's no need for this else clause as written. In particular, you don't need to try calling try lock again. I'm not quite sure what the point of that was. It's not, the return value is not being checked for anything. And secondly, all you need to do after not breaking out is simply check to see whether you've been canceled or not. And of course, throw the appropriate exception. Now let's turn our attention to the spin lock hash map manager implementation and some of the challenges that arose there. So we'll take a look at the acquire method. There's a number of issues people had with acquire. First, make sure that you pass the appropriate parameter to spin lock lock or mspinlock lock. This is not the right parameter. Passing in false completely defeats the purpose of doing this because it'll never check to see whether the lock has been interrupted. So make sure you pass a method reference to the isCancelled method. This implementation is also incorrect. There's no need of doing this. You want to just pass a method reference to the isCancelled method once again. Down here, there's no need to create an atomic reference here. This code is way too complicated and that is unnecessary. Down here, please don't use replace or put to do this work. Instead, simply set the value of the entry to false and then return the key. Please make sure that you always call unlock in the finally portion of a try finally block. This is not always strictly necessary, but I guarantee you that you will thank me when you come up upon a situation where it is necessary, and if you follow that pattern, you never have surprises where exceptions or breaks or returns cause mlock, unlock, or the unlock method to not be unlocked. So down here, another problem with acquire. In this case, please just use a method reference for this instead of using a lambda expression. This is more complicated than it needs to be. As usual, method references are almost always preferred to lambda expressions when they convey the same information to the code. Down here, if you're going to use streams, which is fine, please make your life better by replacing the use of this filter with one that sets the value to false. And take a look at the set method to see how that works. That is what you want to do in filter. Then you can use the get key method to just return the key field, and the other part's fine. Down here, definitely do not use replace or put because that's very inefficient, because what it's having to do is do the hashing again, which is completely defeating the point of why you do the stream or the loop. So instead, use the technique shown above. And as before, please get in the habit of always calling unlock in the finally portion of a try finally block. Down here, once again, there's no need to create an atomic reference. What you can see is that this code has race conditions because there was no call to acquire the lock. So this is in the wrong place. So you need to acquire the spin lock using the condition, and this is the wrong condition. I'm not quite sure what is going on here, but this is the wrong parameter to pass to the lock method. Instead, you want to pass the isCancelable method reference. This check is also unnecessary because there should be no use of a condition in this way. And then down here, please make sure that you always call unlock in the finally portion of a try finally block. And that'll help to give you peace of mind when you make changes to your code. Let's take a look at some issues with release. There's a number of things people were doing here. Once again, make sure you pass in a method reference to the isCanceled method. Doing true or false or anything else is either inefficient or often just incorrect, so please don't do that. And then down here, it's important that you take a look at the return value that comes back from replace, or if you use put, you can do put as well. You have to make sure that you handle the error cases correctly. And if you don't get back the right value, then you've got to bail out. And you need to think carefully about what the right value means. But there's a couple values that can come back from replace or put. You can get back null, which is not the right value, or you can get back true or false. And you have to figure out which one is the right one. And the thing to remember is that you only want to release the semaphore if replace or put, if you use put instead of replace, returned the right value. So that's very important. Otherwise, you're going to get errors with the unit test saying that you're not releasing the semaphore in the right way. Down here, take a look. You need to get in the habit of always calling unlock in the finally portion of a try finally block. Anytime you see code like this where you're duplicating things, it's just going to cause all kinds of problems down the road. And also, there's no need to check for a null pointer exception. That shouldn't be occurring. If that's occurring, there's some other weird problem that you should be catching through some other means. But catching the null pointer exception shouldn't be necessary if your code is correct. Down here, please don't use get and put, but simply use a single call to replace. That'll come back to help us later when we move to a concurrent implementation using concurrent hash map, but get in the habit now. And make sure that you check things appropriately to ensure that when you do the put or the replace, that the return value is what you expect. Make sure that you throw the illegal argument exception if things go wrong, because you don't want to release the semaphore in that case. There's no need to catch the illegal argument exception here. It's not going to be thrown in a context where you need to catch it, so remove that. And then finally, please make sure that the Palantir is Palantir Semaphore, so they should say don't release the semaphore if the Palantiri map isn't updated properly. So very important that you don't want to release the semaphore if there's something wrong with the parameter that's passed in to the release method. So that's essentially the summary of frequently made mistakes from assignment 1B. If you have any questions, please let me know.